At a time when women's rights are becoming popular, a famous tennis match called the Battle of Sexes happened in 1973 between Billie Jean King, a women's champion, and Bobby Riggs, a former men's champion known for his hustling spirit. Apart from the fierce competition on the tennis court, both King and Riggs were dealing with personal struggles. King fought for gender equality and also faced difficulties understanding her own sexuality, especially as she got closer to her friend Marilyn Barnett. On the other hand, Riggs, who became famous through the media, had problems with gambling, which affects his family and marriage. Hello and welcome to IM Movies. The movie begins as Bobby Riggs watches a TV broadcast announcing the victory of Billie Jean King as the US Open Women's Tennis Champion of 1972. At the event, she's been congratulated as she dances with her husband, Larry King. Later, Billie's manager, Gladys, approaches them and shows Billie the prize money allocated for a new tennis tournament. The document shows that women will be paid lesser than their male counterparts. Gladys tells Billie that she feels it's the work of Jack Kramer, and they decide to confront him. As Billie and Gladys walk into Jack's office, they meet him sitting with Bob Sanders. Jack asks them to sit down, and they ask him to explain why the men will be getting higher pay than women. Bob tells them that the high amounts will attract top male players, and adds that male players attract more viewers. Billie disagrees and reminds them that the women's final attracted the same amount of viewers as the men's. Jack tells Billie that it won't be possible for her to get the same pay as men. Billie tells them that she will boycott the tournament and set up her own tournament, then walks out. Later, Bobby plays a match against Jack while holding two dogs on a leash and wins. The price is a Rolls-Royce plus other cash prices. Bobby tells them he's going to get into trouble with his wife if he takes the Rolls-Royce home, so he asks Jack to keep it for some time. While preparing to leave, they discuss Billie's fight for equal rights and pay. Bobby brags to them that he once won the men's US Open tournament and that he could beat Billie Jean or any other women's champion. Then Mark tells him he'll pay anything to see Bobby Riggs play against Billie Jean. Meanwhile, Gladys gets Billie and other female tennis players ready for a press conference regarding their proposed tournament. Gladys tells the lady that they are on a budget tour because they are broke. The hairdresser making Billie's hair asks her if they are all tennis players. Billie's shocked and asks her if she doesn't watch tennis, but the lady tells her that she doesn't have a TV. After making her hair, Billie hands the hairdresser tickets to their tournament in San Diego and leaves. During the press conference, Jack shows up and Billie goes to meet him. Jack tells her that she's making a big mistake and needs to reconsider her decision to keep her place in the United States Lawn Tennis Association. Jack reminds Billie that she won't be able to compete in the Grand Slam or Wimbledon if she's no longer a member of the USLTA. Billie tells Jack that Grand Slam won't be so grand if they don't have the greatest female players on it. Soon, Gladys calls her to the stage to join the other women for a group photo. During the photo shoot, Billie tells the ladies that they have just been kicked out of USLTA. However, Gladys asks them to smile while waving $1 bills at Jack. Later, while they're eating, Gladys announces that they've just gotten sponsorship for their dress and a grand prize of $7,000 for each tournament. Later, they go live on radio to create awareness. They talk about how they share flyers, set up the arena themselves, and manage to live together in a small space despite competing against each other. The next day, Margaret Court and her husband arrive to join the tour, and she tells her husband that Billie Jean never liked her. Meanwhile, Bobby is playing with his son and the doorbell rings. He asks his wife Priscilla to get it. She calls his attention to a Rolls-Royce delivery at their doorstep. Immediately, Bobby sees the car. He apologizes to her and decides to take it away. Later, as Billie signs autographs for her fans, she sees that the hairdresser, Marilyn, had come to watch her play. They are both excited to see each other, and they decide to spend some time together. Later, Marilyn tells Billie that she will be leaving soon to get a bus back to LA. However, Billie tells her that it's too late for that and asks her to stay. As soon as they get into the room, they both get intimate. Later, Bobby watches TV in his Rolls-Royce and tunes in to watch the news about Billie Jean's tournament. Bobby calls Billie and proposes a match against her, offering $35,000 in cash prize. Billie rejects the offer and hangs up on him. Later, Billie and Marilyn talk about their intimacy and why they can't continue with it. Billie tells Marilyn that she's married and that her parents will stop talking to her if they found out. They both agree and decide to sleep on separate beds. Soon after, Billie goes up to Marilyn and they continue being intimate. Meanwhile, Bobby visits his elderly son, Larry Riggs, to sleep over since he could not go back home. The next day, he goes back home and knocks on the door repeatedly without any answer. He asks his wife to at least give him a pair of underwear, and she throws some of his clothes out of the window for him. Later, Bobby goes to a support group for help, but decides to encourage other gamblers to be passionate about what they do. Soon after, he decides to visit a therapist. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Billie and Marilyn try to leave the hotel discreetly. As they meet with the other players, Gladys asks Billie who Marilyn is, but the other ladies quickly recognize her from the salon in LA. They beg Gladys to allow Marilyn to come with them on their tour since she will help fix their hair. Gladys refuses at first, but later agrees. However, Margaret Court hints her husband about Billie and Marilyn's intimacy. Later at the hotel, Bobby visits Margaret Court and offers her $35,000 to play against him. Margaret asks Bobby why he chooses to play against her, and Bobby tells her that it's because he'll love to play with the #1 female champion. Margaret tells him that Billie is #1, but Bobby tells her that she could be #1 if she beats Billie in their next game. The next day, Larry Kings is on his way to surprise Billie Jean. Ted notices him and quickly calls Billie to inform her of his presence. Immediately, she begins to clean her room for any evidence of her affair with Marilyn. As Larry King steps into the elevator, he sees Marilyn carrying a bucket of ice towards the elevator, and he quickly stops the door from closing on her. Soon they realize they are going to the same floor, and as they get out of the elevator, they take a different route. As Billie opens the door, she finds both of them at the door. Billie introduces Marilyn to her husband as her hairdresser, and Marilyn finds out that Larry is Billie's husband and quickly excuses herself. Immediately, Larry enters the room. He sees a strange female bra in her room. He ignores it and prepares bags of ice for Billie's knees. Larry places the ice bags on Billie's knees and tells her that he'll be booking another room because he has phone calls to make. However, Larry looks disappointed as he steps out. The next day at the finals, Margaret Court beats Billie in the tournament and wins the trophy. After the game, Larry helps Billie place ice bags on her knees. He tells her that she has not been herself lately, and then leaves. On his way out, he meets Marilyn, who asks him if he smokes, and he says no. Then Larry asks her if Billie knows that she smokes, and she says no. Larry King tells her that a lot of secrets are flying around these days, and she immediately notices that he'd find out about their affair. Larry King tells Marilyn that the tournament has been run by sponsorship, and that their affair could ruin everything if it gets out to the public. He also tells her that they are both sideshows, and that tennis is Billie's true love. In the dressing room, Margaret Court tells Billie about her match against Bobby. Billie tells her that Bobby had given her the same offer, and that he only wants to make a fool out of her. However, Margaret Court tells Billie that she accepted the deal because she had nothing to hide and leaves. Billie blows hot and asks Ted what he thinks about Margaret playing against Bobby Riggs. He tells her he'll love to see the match. Billie is afraid Margaret will lose the match and women will be laughing stocks. Later that night, Billie and Marilyn continue their affair as they talk intimately. The next day, Bobby visits his son Larry as he prepares for his match against Margaret Court. On the day of the match, Billie and the other women rush to a TV stand to watch the match. They are disappointed at how Margaret is losing against Bobby. In the end, Bobby wins and brags about his new victory, offering $100,000 to any female player willing to challenge him. Meanwhile, Billie watches him in disgust and leaves in anger. Later, Billie tells Marilyn about her desire to face Bobby in a match. Marilyn tells her that she doesn't need to play against him, but Billie is determined to beat him. Later that night, Billie goes to the hotel's court to train and Marilyn watches her from the balcony. Soon, she calls her husband and tells him that she's ready to challenge Bobby. Larry King tells her that he'll call Bobby first thing in the morning, but she insists that he calls him immediately. The next day, Bobby brags to his wife about how excited he is about his recent victory and his upcoming match against Billie. Bobby tells her that he needs her help this time, promising that he's a changed man. However, she tells him that she misses him but won't be able to help him, and she divorces him. Bobby leaves in disappointment and makes a phone call to one of his gambler friends, Jimmy. Bobby tells him to place a bet of $15 grand on him to win. The next day, Bobby and Billie are at a press conference where Bobby continues to brag about how he's better than any woman tennis champion. Later, Bobby begins to train childishly and take photo shoots to ridicule his opponent. Billie begins to train hard to stay fit for the game. Later, Bobby's son asks him to take training seriously, but Bobby says he doesn't need to practice. Later, Larry Riggs calls Bobby to watch some interviews, and they see that everyone is rooting for Bobby. Meanwhile, news of Billie falling ill has spread all over the news. At the salon, Marilyn watches all of Bobby's caricatures with disgust, and she immediately leaves the salon. Meanwhile, Bobby's team meets Billie's team for a meeting. At the meeting, Bobby tells Billie that Jack is his choice of commentator for the match, and she disagrees with them. Billie tells them that she won't play if Jack will be commentating. Then, Jack asks to see Billie in private. Billie tells Jack that he has no respect for women, and that he can't stand to see women doing something greater than usual. Jack tells her that she can't quit a day to the match because it will ruin her image, but Billie reminds him about the last time he dared her. At last, Jack bows to her demands, apologizes to Bobby, and leaves. On the match day, Bobby and his team are on their way to the venue. His son tells him that he won't be able to go with him and wishes him well. At the same time, Billie and her team are getting ready for the match. Gladys reads some encouraging messages from Billie's fans and tells her that they are rooting for her. However, Billie feels something is missing about her, but she can't figure it out, and Marilyn walks in just in time. Billie is surprised and introduces Marilyn to her parents as her hairdresser, and they both smile at each other. As they get ready for the match, Bobby gives Billie a big lollipop, and Billie gives him a piglet. Finally, the match begins with Billie's service, and Bobby takes the first win. As the match continues, Billie begins to take more wins, and Bobby gets tired. The game begins to get intense, and they begin to put in more pressure. Later, Bobby gets injured and takes some time off to get treatment. Bobby gets back and starts to get back strong. However, Billie begins to put more pressure on him, and Bobby gets exhausted. In the end, Billie Jean wins, and everyone cheers in excitement. Bobby congratulates Billie, and they both walk out of the court, as fans continue to cheer. Billie receives her trophy and continues to celebrate her win. Later, she goes to the dressing room and begins to cry. Billie goes out to celebrate with the others. However, Bobby and Priscilla renew their wedding vows and stayed together for the rest of their lives. After many years, Billie Jean becomes the first female athlete to be awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In the end, this match went beyond just tennis and became a big cultural event. It sparked discussions everywhere, from private bedrooms to business boardrooms, and its impact is still felt today. If you like this video, share and like to help this channel out. Thanks for watching, and see you at the next one.